Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om, I bow to the Lord Vasudeva. Joy to you, friends. We're talking about yoga and the initial teachings of yoga, dealing with pranayama. And this is the path that will help you to break the shackles of karma, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. It's a very important thing to mix with people whose consciousness goes upward. Even though everything is essentially neutral, it depends on how you react to make it seem positive or negative. And so you must be positive. You're trying to raise your consciousness toward God. When we're talking about finding that even point between pleasure and pain, that middle point is not apathy. That middle point is not dullness. It is that which will help you to rise. The middle point of your body is your spine, and the sushumna in the spine, which takes your energy and the kundalini up to the top of the spine. I was in New York a few years ago, and I went to the Joffrey Ballet, thinking this might be an interesting experience. Well, it was very interesting, but in a negative way. Whoever developed this particular philosophy behind this dance had the idea that every creative act should lead to a new creative act, should lead to a new creative act. And so the dance kept evolving from one movement into the next movement and the next movement. It became intensely dissatisfying for the person, certainly for me, because there's always this wish that when you go one direction, it be balanced by its opposite. And this thought that it has to go back to the opposite, that it's a delusion, is wrong. Even the movements of our bodies, they have to be understood in terms of these truths inside our body. If your dancing is only with the lower spine, that means your energy is in the lower spine. And if your energy is in the lower spine, you will be unhappy. You can't be happy. How many rock musicians have committed suicide because their energy was taken down by that heavy beat? When you see the dancing in Bali, it's more with the arms, and it's beautiful because it's uplifting. And because it's only uplifting in an aesthetic way, it doesn't take you to God. But any movement, and I would love to see us evolve in our community, a kind of dancing that helps to inspire you to upward movement in your consciousness as well as in your body. But it will begin certainly with this understanding that the energy has to be in the upper part of the body. It'll be the arms more than the legs that do the movement. It will be the eyes moving upward and not down. Everything must be understood in relation to its spiritual realities. If you look at art, if you look at anything in this world with this vision, you see that all around you there are things that suggest being centered, suggest raising your consciousness, suggest making yourself peaceful. And there are downward flows you can see just from people's movements, from their gestures, from the words they use. Everything will indicate their state of consciousness. And if you can understand this, then you can understand how to get control over your own body. Be refined in your consciousness. Why should you be refined? Well, because you'll be happier. Refinement means getting rid of all the dross, that dross which is only dirt in the mind, and it keeps the mind from being able to think clearly. It keeps the feelings from being able to feel clearly, and you can never succeed in life. Anybody who is a success in life will, to some extent at least, have abided by the principles that I am describing here. And so in yoga, what they try to do is first, either through the inhalation and the exhalation, to get the mind, to get you to understand, this is the secret of Kriya Yoga. You get control over the upward and downward movement in the spine, of energy in the spine. And once you've got control of that movement, even though the control seems to be just physical, or at least just on an energy level, you will find automatically you look at the world and you're not touched by it so much. You see that, oh, this is something inside. I appreciate it in myself, not outside. And then what you need to do is bring that energy into the deep spine where the energy is stilled. Now, in Kriya Yoga, what it does is magnetize the spine so intensely that all that energy of the body is drawn into the spine and goes into the lower, through the lower chakra into the Sushumna. But in the other kinds of yoga, they try to bring you to that by breathlessness, and that too is good. It's just not as direct. But for example, just watching the breath and letting it gradually calm down. You feel yourself detached from the breath. And as you feel that I'm not breathing, so the breath becomes, well, if somebody's sitting in a restaurant staring at you, don't sort of finally begin to freeze and not want to move. Well, you could say that's the truth with the breath also. You keep watching it and finally it gets embarrassed. And whatever the case, now I'm joking, of course, but whatever the case, the breath becomes calm, and only when there is completely calm breath will you be able to see things clearly. So yoga begins with the breath and with pranayama. Then only when you've really controlled the breath can you practice pratyahara correctly. And pratyahara is the next stage of Patanjali, that you interiorize the consciousness. Mind you, you can interiorize your consciousness with all these levels, but that's the time when you completely concentrate on interiorizing your consciousness. At any time, if you enjoy anything outside, think that you're enjoying it inside. That will be one beginning of the practice of interiorizing your consciousness, of pratyahara. All these stages, there are 8 limbs, and they all have to be active, even up to samadhi. That if you have a completely clear mind, if you can sit still and so on, then you will find that not only is samadhi easier to attain, but if you have the thought of samadhi, even while you're trying to control your body and your actions and your energy, then you'll attain that state much more quickly. So Yogananda told us, my poem Samadhi, it's in Autobiography of a Yogi and also in another book of his, Whispers from Eternity, a beautiful book. And he said, memorize that poem, recite it every day, and you will see that bit by bit, that will stir deeper than conscious memories in your soul and help you to come more quickly to that. So take that poem and take that thought and always affirm in yourself that I am ever perfect. Don't say, well, here I am on phase 3 and don't expect too much of me. Think in terms of those things. Think in terms of pranayama when you're being honest and truthful and all the rules of yama and niyama. Think of it when you're, think of pratyahara when you're doing those things. Think of samadhi when you're doing these. All these are to be practiced all the time, but perfected at a certain stage. So anyway, these are little dips into the great teaching of yoga. I'm not going to teach it at length here, but I do want to give a certain foundation in it so you'll know what we're talking about. Joy to you.